Welcome to the Global Spin Podcast with me, Ryan Cramer, where we take a deep dive into the world of global selling and share the secrets to growing your brand in new markets. Whether you're looking to expand your brand, enter new markets, or boost your sales, we've got you covered. Tune in for unscripted, engaging episodes that will take you on a journey of discovery and success. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Global Spin Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Cramer, and this is my corner of the internet where I bring the best and brightest in the Amazon e-commerce and logistics space. It's been great to, I'm sorry to miss everyone for a couple of weeks, but believe it or not, I've been on vacation. Took a couple of weeks with my lovely wife, and we spent it in traversing through the parts of Italy. It was amazing. I would love to talk about it. I could spend a whole couple episodes talking about it. But it gave a really cool global perspective, which is what we do at Frisbee all the time. Is I got excited engaging with people who are business professionals, but also people who are just experiencing the tourism and kind of give a different lending point to both localization, but also just a different part of the world, which is what every entrepreneur is trying to unlock of how can I unlock that ecosystem, right? But I'm super excited to be back with you on this podcast. If you're new to the show, we typically go live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. We also go and share our episodes on audio version on all your favorite podcast destinations. So if you happen to have a question and you're watching this on social media, feel free to throw your questions or comments below, and we'll make sure Frisbee or myself or our guest will be able to answer those questions. So, like any traditional podcast, one is not traditionally just talking at the audience. It's not a great show that way. I love to have an engaging audience in my corner of the internet. So, when I go out and I ask for different people to lend their perspective on our podcast, and done this over 300 times now, it's really cool to engage and interact with other podcasts. So, believe it or not, I was introduced to one of our customers, but also he's a technologist, entrepreneur, writer, and also podcast host. So we'll see who asks the most questions here in this episode. But one who is building a brand, who's selling online, who's done everything in the technology world. His name is R Blank, and he is the CEO of Shield Your Body. And wanted to just get him on today and talk about why self-care should include building a healthier relationship with technology. We're going to find out together why we should be caring about that and using technology to take care of ourselves, or vice versa. Maybe technology is hurting our body more. We don't know, but that's why we have him on today. So welcome to the podcast, R Blank of Shield Your Body.
Ryan, great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on. Like I mentioned before, customer of Frisbee. So I was introduced to you by Pearl Alsh, who seems to know everyone, but she knows you. So she definitely reached out to me and said you should definitely get R on. And which, first and foremost, the letter R. Let's get this out of the way. Is that really the that's your name? It's just R.
Yeah, that's my name.
Okay. I need to know a little bit more because I would love to have an initial or letter for
you could
my.
do it. Your name starts with an R.
It's true. It could
just
be.
Cut off 75% of the excess characters there.
That's a life moment right there. Just get rid of the excess fat and just go by one initial. That's amazing. So was that your given name? I'm just
No, it
curious.
wasn't my given. It was my given
Okay.
nickname.
Okay,
By
given
my
name.
father.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of R names in your family, or what's the genesis behind that?
He he was really into crossword puzzles.
So it's just literally R blank. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's amazing, and nothing more there, and just curiosity.
People
but
remember it too, So and it really does stop everyone from asking if my last name is real. So
that is also true because
you didn't even get there. You got stuck on the first letter.
I did, and then it was blank, and then I honestly was just, and because of in marketing, everyone's curious. They're like, "What's the first letter? Like, well, what's wrong in our cadences of first name or last name?" But hey, I think that's an amazing way to go about the world and identify yourself too. But hey, thanks for hopping on the Global Spin podcast.
It's great to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, so you're based in Nevada,
Vegas. Yeah,
Vegas. So you're a little as of this talk, you guys have had some 24 hours, right? with
Uh,
the Vegas Knights winning the
oh,
Stanley
right,
Cup.
right, right.
If
Yeah, yeah.
you're a hockey fan.
That was a huge win. I mean,
Yeah.
that score with it doesn't even look like a hockey score.
It was a baseball score, even
Yeah.
more of a football score, but winning the Stanley
Yeah,
Cup on
because
the team.
they got to the finals in their first year, and that was
Correct.
incredibly exciting for the city. But they lost, but it was still incredibly exciting. But yeah, last night they brought it home.
Well, for Vegas, and this is a joke too. I visited Vegas for the first time. I want to say a year and a half ago. So I've now since been to Vegas 3 or 4 times, and it's crazy to see how often people come back and you keep experiencing new things. Sports is now becoming a part of that world too. But are you a
Yeah.
native of Vegas or you
No, no,
choice
no,
or
no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm originally from the East Coast, then spent a long time living on the West Coast, and then ended up in Vegas in about 2015,
wow? Okay.
2014.
So you've been there a decent amount of time. What drew you to Vegas? Was it people or is it growth or what was the what was
It was career.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, what
This
was
was
that career? Yeah, we can
so
kind of keep
prior to this, Shield Your Body is the company you introduced me as. I started Shield Your Body sort of part time on the side back when I was doing software engineering.
okay.
So I had a software engineering firm, and we would build apps and experiences and games for brands like Apple and Microsoft and Mattel. And I started Shield Your Body on the side. So I started the idea for SYB I got in 2012, and I started it in 2013 with my first product. And then I sold out of my software company, went full time with SYB in 2016.
Okay. So Shield Your Body was something that you've been building a long time, but you said side project, which again, a lot of people in the Amazon space, it seems that's your either develop it via passion or you're trying to supplement the income. But you're a technologist. You're somebody who is in the field who I'm assuming was just very busy. What kind of provoked this
Yeah.
company, this
So
brand, if you will?
my father, the one who was really into crossword puzzles, he was one of the world's leading scientists into scientists and activists into the health effects of exposure to electromagnetic radiation, which is the type of radiation that comes off of cell phones and Wi-Fi and basically all modern technology. And in 2012, he had a contract to write a book for general audiences. So not for other scientists and not for other academics, but for regular people. And so at that point, I'd written a couple of books, and had taught undergrad at USC. And so he had asked me to jump in and help him write that book. And that book became Overpowered. And that was a survey of everything he had learned and understood about the health effects of EMF, exposure to EMF radiation from modern technology. And it was in the course of writing that book that I came up with the idea for what became SYB, which is, the science showing harm is really quite deep and significant at this. And this was even 10 years ago.
Sure.
Even at that point, was really very strong. But the sources of these exposures, it's not like tobacco where you can sort of stop. The sources of EMF radiation are everywhere, and they are what power our modern lives and our modern economy and our society. So there's no way of escaping these exposures. So I wanted to find ways for people to engage more safely with technology, and that's where the idea came from. I was also motivated because the software business, at least the way my company was set up, was client services,
Sure.
and there was always sort of this drive um, to productize and to wouldn't it be nice if I could actually make some products, and so that not I don't get paid just for an hour that I work, but
Right.
that I'm actually able to scale. And so those two things sort of came together, and like I say, it started, but it was really small for the first 3 years. Well, it was even small after the first 3, but the first 3 years when it was just kind of on the side, dipping the toe in. The market back then for this was also much smaller, and but that's how it all got started.
That's amazing. So you sold your business, focusing this on full time. What was the thing as a is this your team yourself? Like you're a team of one, or are you a team
Yeah,
of
at the
like
time
five?
I mean, I always outsourced. So I've always had a bookkeeper because I
Sure.
knew I couldn't do that, and I always outsourced the legal stuff. But from day one, it was a one man show. So I did the product design, I did the packaging design. I would be the one receiving all the units from the suppliers. At the time, we had suppliers in the U.S. and China. I would be doing QA. I would be packaging them. I'd be printing off the barcodes and labeling, and I'd be building the listings and doing the product photography and building the website and running the email list and everything. And then, gradually over time, it grows, and you're able to kind of offload more and more of that stuff. But
Absolutely.
at the time, it was definitely just me, except like I say, with the part-time bookkeeper and outsourced law work.
And for people listening, this was back in 20
That was
what
2016.
2016. Okay. So I mean, you've been doing this for a couple of years now. So over time and iteration, did we start off of your own website, or are we doing this on Amazon? How do
So
we evolve this?
yeah, well, like I said, I'd been in software engineering, so building our own website wasn't a challenge.
Right.
Getting people to it was. So so
Conundrum of e-commerce,
yeah,
right?
so
Getting
no,
people
I
to
I mean I really did build the business off of Amazon.
wow.
It is no longer our an Amazon. I mean, we still sell on Amazon,
Sure.
but it is no longer what I would call an Amazon business. I mean, our biggest channel is our website, and other channels like Walmart and our distributor relationships. Those are also quite significant now. So Amazon remains important, but but in terms of actually getting the company off the ground, because I didn't have any of the sort of digital marketing skills that, I mean, except for knowing how to build a website and knowing how to write copy, I didn't have any of the key digital marketing skills, and I had limited resources. And I had some friends who were telling me about their successes on Amazon, and I figured this was the lowest hanging fruit in terms of getting serious increases in my revenue. And for the first few years, it really it was the key driver of the growth of the company.
That's awesome. And as one does, you said you built a brand. You're now a brand. I would consider this journey that you've been on a brand building uh, journey, because you said find the easiest way to get started and then kind of grow from there. Amazon's a part
Mm-hmm.
of it, and I think a lot of people would be envious of how do I make Amazon only a part of it, not the sole resource or driving point, or the whole three-legged stool ecosystem. How can I make it not just my sole leg that I'm standing on? If it's gone, it's gone, and now I'm not making any revenue. How important was that process for you in the beginning, or is it something that happened to your brand that you had to say, I
It
have to
was
listen to?
always so. Yeah, when I this is I you know I really appreciate these questions because they're really important, and I never talk about them. And a lot of people who've gone through it don't also talk about it. But when Amazon is going well for you, there's this, well, at least for me, there are these two different strands of thought. And one is, I keep hearing these nightmares about someone hijacking listings, or Amazon just making an arbitrary policy change, and boom, overnight the business is gone.
Mhm.
And that might not be a majority of people, but you hear enough of those stories to think I really don't want that to
Yeah, they're
be
not
me.
making it up. Exactly.
Yeah. So you want to diversify, but at the same time, Amazon is paying off for you, and so you want to plow resources into that. And so for a while, you just kind of, you sort of put it in the back, the threat you put in the back of your mind. It's something that's motivating you to find new alternatives, but you still have to pay attention to the Amazon opportunity. And you use the revenue from, you kind of, the money that's coming in through Amazon, you kind of have to split, right? So part of it goes back into refueling Amazon, then part of it
Sure.
goes into whatever other type of approach you want to take, right? Because there's other multi-channel approaches that you can take without building your own site, without building your own distribution network. Like eBay, it's not going gangbusters, but a lot of people are still succeeding on eBay. Walmart is making some serious inroads. There's Etsy. There's OnBuy in the UK,
Mhm.
and there's all these other places where you can still. And all of those, all of the ones I just mentioned, also have advertising. I mean, they're all different skill sets in terms of like the specific ways in which you succeed on all these different marketplaces, but they're all basically the same workflows. But in my case, I wanted to take the multi-channel approach, but I really wanted to build the website out as its own platform. And again, I'm at the point now where fortunately I am not the one responsible for my own website, but that is literally only a year. So it was up until a year ago where I had actually built the entire, designed to build the entire website myself. At the time, it was off of WooCommerce. We last year we switched to Shopify when I hired a team for the work. And at that point, it's about learning, how you want to get audience. For me, given my skills and my niche, I used SEO combined with lead capture. Other
Mhm.
people would maybe want to use PPC with funnel marketing or something like. But you need some kind of system, and you just start putting these experiments in play and seeing what starts working. For me, building the email list was critical, and that is how I was able to build the website into a standalone channel. Now, I don't know if I gave you enough depth on any of that to make it satisfying, so feel free to ask
No, yeah.
follow-ups.
That's fantastic, and I think, like, I understand, but I wanna make sure for people who are on this journey and they're probably at this crossroads that you're also on, or that you spoke on, there's multiple ways to build out a brand, right? And a brand for many of us thinks differently. It's either the name itself is driving search on whatever platform you're looking on, whether it be Amazon or Google, or
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem and my brand or my products are going to be relevant enough so that it appears within in search engines like on Google or Bing or whatever platform you're searching on, or just understanding the content. And it sounds like that you want the education to come first, driving
Yeah,
back to your website. And then if your brand resonates enough and hopefully longer and stronger, the more you're around, people will just search for brand on those relevant platforms.
I'm glad that
Sounds
you
like.
picked up on that because yes, education is critical to the way that we have built our marketing.
Sure.
The other reason I think it's really good you picked up on that is because it's literally the reverse of Amazon. Because on Amazon, someone will search for a solution to a problem, and you have 7 images and 5 bullet points and a title to convince them that you're the one.
Yeah. If you're
Whereas
on
when
page
you
one, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
and when you're out in the world, especially because my niche, there's a lot of education that goes along with it. I'm not selling water bottles. I'm selling something that protects you against something that you might not even realize is a threat, or if you do think it's a threat, you have no idea what to do about it or how it works, and I'm also in a niche where there's a lot of snake oil, for lack of a
Exactly.
more refined term. So, what sets us apart? How do people know that our stuff really works compared to some of these other options that you might find on Amazon or on Google? And so, education, fostering customer relationships through education has been critical. Well, I wouldn't say critical. Well, it has been critical, but it's been the focus of how we've done all of our marketing. So we are a very education heavy brand, and that in turn that accomplishes two things. One is it educates people, but two is it also helps build trust, and it also helps build referrals because people will start referring other people to our content and to our information. And then you can find other ways of trying to leverage that attention that you're getting, and eventually, hopefully, get enough sales to keep the lights on.
Absolutely. And for people, we didn't even like dive into what your product kind of does, or really the solution that you're fighting it or fighting with, I should say. It's a very interesting topic, and like you said, it came from kind of family, and then you yourself kind of grew up into it. When people are, was this more of a does this feel like a passion, or does it feel more like a, hey, it's an opportunity. Does that make sense? Because I
Yeah,
know
I mean, I'd
entrepreneurs.
say it's both. Um, it only makes sense to do if you see it as an opportunity. But how you define opportunity can be pretty broad. It's an opportunity to help people. It's an opportunity to make money. It's an opportunity to help um, create a more educated consumer base in an area that really needs a lot more education. Um, but I can't view it purely as a money making opportunity the way that a lot of and this is not to criticize other brands and other sellers, because I mean the purpose of a business is to make money, but this is also a business that I've created to further my father's legacy. And so and he was an academic, he was a scientist, he was not a capitalist. I mean, he was a capitalist, but you know what I mean. He had no idea about how to run business. In fact, I was kind of surprised. He always expressed amazement at that I could do this, and I'm like, look at everything you've done. Well,
Yeah.
how is this hard? But to him, none of this made any sense. So I have to take I'm constantly balancing this drive to make effective marketing, but that is also uh, uh, furthering his legacy, and that isn't really seen as, because I don't know, the right terms aren't coming to me right now, but there's a lot of marketing that works, but it's sort of smarmy, or it's sort of misleading,
Hmm.
or it's you're over promising and under delivering and all the, and it's very important for me that we try to be as accurate as possible in everything that we say and do, while also trying to compete in a modern marketplace. So
Right.
I don't know if that was responsive to your question.
It is, and I kind of think about this space too, is because the more you're in technology, e-commerce, Amazon, whatever, in the tech space, you become always more aware of what's around you, and then both the benefits, but also the negative side of things, right? So the negative, people find products to either help with or help protect against that, but they're results of other products, right? So you talked about in the beginning in our introduction, both laptops or even your company's website. If you go to shieldyourbody.com, again, it's more of hey, in 2020 we were just immersed with screens and laptops and working at home, and we were just around screens all the time, and with our cell phones and our smartwatches, everything of that sort. We don't know what we don't know, but once you bring education, you bring either more solutions to the products that are helping our lives better on, but you bring products to help fight against solutions and products that are helping us in other things. So you see how the trickle effect is kind of different, but this is always something so fascinating because of the health, and there's actual side effects and studies that do all these kinds of things that back up and support you. So where I'm going with this question is, how do you work in a field that's so immersed and so broad when you're selling? And I'm looking at your website. If you see me look away, you're talking about fighting against headsets, stuff for home and office, for
Mm-hmm.
babies, for apparel, just for in lifestyle in general. That's a broad range of products you have to think about. We need solutions for. So
Yeah.
is that overwhelming? I guess is what I'm
Um,
getting for.
are you talking about to me or to the consumer?
Both, I would say. I'd say for your brand, you are the forefront leader in the space. So is that overwhelming to be that advocate and that thought leader, that person who has to protect people from the solution or
Well, I
for
mean,
the solution?
there's a lot of important people in my niche. In terms of brands, uh, I have built. It's hard for me to 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 acknowledge this, but I have built, in terms of brands, I have built one of the largest and most successful in this very small part of the world. But the people who are making real change also on the impacts of EMF and health effects, a lot of them don't have brands. They're
Right.
scientists, they're activists, and they're out there. They're writing books, they're giving talks, and so it's not like everything rests on me. My job is to be a responsible marketer. Um, I, the Because part of what I believe is, the work that all of these people are doing. Like my father was one of them, and
Mhm.
I could list off tons of names: Dr. Deborah Davis, Dr. Joel Moskowitz. There's dozens, even hundreds of these scientists around the world doing this kind of work, um, and organizations too, like the Environmental Health Trust. My belief, well, I'm not a scientist, and I don't particularly care to be an activist. So that's not where I'm going to make a difference. But it's
Sure.
also my belief that by figuring out, getting these types of products, like that I make, into more consumers' hands on its own builds awareness. That is, it makes it safer for the consumers, but it also makes the consumers more aware. Because when the consumers are more aware, they'll actually be demanding that this technology be made safer in the first place. Because this technology could be, like I said at the beginning, there's no avoiding these exposures. We live in this world where there's going to be a fair amount of human-made EMF exposure, far more than is natural, far more than is safe, but it could be a lot safer than it is. But that isn't happening because the prompts aren't coming either, because that only comes either from consumer demand or regulatory enforcement, and neither of those are happening. And so I believe that by creating a responsibly marketed brand that designs and builds real products, you're actually building that level of awareness at a sort of a grassroots level that creates the field in which bigger change becomes more possible. And that's how I view my role. I don't view myself as significant as my father or the other names I was just mentioning, or any of the other names I could just pull out right now. I do feel though that what I am doing is important, and it fills a gap, because you have all of these very legitimate, very serious, very important academics and activists. But then on the commercial side, you have much less professional representation in the kind that doesn't get broader consumer acceptance. And I feel like that kind of consumer acceptance is what is going to drive, is a key missing component that is required to drive the broader changes that all of us would really like to see. Did that answer your question?
It did, absolutely, it provokes a couple of other things. And again, for everyone who's joining now or who's listening, we have Art Blank with Shield Your Body, CEO, entrepreneur, technologist, author, podcast host. We have him with us today talking about building a brand from obviously something that was passion, but also there's an opportunity to help people understand and in the field that he grew up with, but with his father, but also in the world of e-commerce, is something he's educating, and he's building a brand around it in a multi-channel different way. In the space, I'm curious too, going back to when you first started this online, what were the ways that you started to learn, and how do you continuously stay up to date with all the changes in the world we both work in, right? So we're
Yeah,
talking
you don't
e-commerce,
stay up to
Amazon.
date with all the changes. There's just no way. You pick your battle. I mean, as you grow a team, it becomes easier, because then less is on you individually. I mean, the amount but the answer is there's no way to stay on top of it all, because there's so much happening. If you just devoted 24 hours a day to it every day, you still wouldn't stay on top of it all. You find voices that matter, and you kind of follow them and see what they're saying is important. You work with brands, like at the time it was called First Choice Shipping, but now Frisbee. And but I've been I think since 2016 I've been a customer, and they not only helped me get selling, right, because you hear, oh, you're doing well on Amazon US, you should expand to Canada, you should expand to UK. But at the time, I mean, I don't know what it is now, but at the time Amazon was not very helpful about telling you how to do that. And when you're, a one-man shop, you're like, oh yeah, sure, I should just become an international e-commerce guy. So Frisbee was critical in terms of, the first one was Canada. So they got me, I didn't even know what an NRI was, but they helped me
Many
get my
people still don't.
NRI. Yeah. And which I still have. And then as we expanded into Europe and VAT enforcement became more serious, they helped connect me with a VASC. But then, that's just one example. we when I built the website originally back in, I think it was 2014. I built it knowing what I knew how to build, which was WordPress and WooCommerce. And over time, people are saying you should switch to Shopify, and then there's other people saying you should really advertise on Facebook and use that to drive traffic to Amazon, and that'll help your flywheel. And
Your rank,
like,
yeah.
yeah, and it's like there's so much, and you can't stay on top of it all. So you just have to sort of form a picture in your head of what you are, what types of opportunities you think are missing from your kind of scheme, and which ones are popping up that might fit. And there've been a lot of misfires along the way. You pick the wrong software platform, you invest a bunch of money in a marketing effort that just goes nowhere. Even product, we've fortunately not really had to. We've only had to discontinue, I think, 2 products, but I have dropped products that were pretty far into the prototyping phase, and like, what, this isn't going to work, and you've sunk a bunch of money into that, and it's got. So there's just the answer is give up on. Don't ever try to stay on top of everything, because that isn't possible. Stay as informed as your schedule allows by finding these voices, finding these trusted partners, listening to what they have to say, but realizing, you're the only one experiencing the world from your perspective. And just because something worked for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I know a lot of businesses, like I said, SEO has been really good to us. I mean, it's up and down, but it's been really good to us and how we've built the business. But I know other businesses that have done quite well with horrible SEO. They don't. Everything they've done has been, all their traffic is paid acquisition, and they built real businesses that way. So just because I'm here saying SEO worked really well doesn't mean that's drop everything and go work on SEO. And keep in mind, all of this can just change overnight. I mean, Google updates their algorithm 1 to 2 times a year. Facebook and Amazon will change their advertising policies overnight without even informing you. There's all of these changes that can happen. So, having a few irons in the fire, helps diversify that risk.
Absolutely. And thank you for the shout out too, because we've just met today and emailed a couple times, but just hearing brand stories from this side, I've been in the space for 7-8 years now, and worked with different technology companies and different software solutions and international growth expansion operations. There's nothing better than sitting and listening to every story from a brand perspective, to know that there's millions of people in the world who are doing the same thing, but it's completely different than the person who might look exactly like you on the different side of the world. It's a phenomenal, cool space we get to live in, but it's also a unique thing. And when someone asks a question, hey, can you help with this? My answer is always, it depends. Tell me more about your story. And that's how you get to develop those relationships with brand to service or consumer or agency or whomever you're working with, because there's never one cut solution that will help any brand across the board. And it'll be the same ecosystem for the next brand that comes along. So it really just depends. And that's what's beautiful about this ecosystem. But for you, I'm curious. You've been around, I would say, a while. Most brands are developing and they're growing. I won't say, oh, you're ancient. You have a developed brand and you're established, and you're not afraid to share your brand either, right? A lot of people are afraid of sharing brand names, sharing anything like that. But I think it's a testament to like the next level you've been able to achieve of, hey, we're not just dependent on Amazon, so you can attack us there, but we'll still take you out in SEO or anything else like that, because we've been methodical, we've been established. Have you always been forefront of like what you do, what products you're selling? Here's your brand, and you're hopefully no one's going
no,
to.
I have no. That's a good question. No, I mean, it was a slow, gradual process of, because I mean, at the end of the day, and I'm not a marketing expert, but at the end of the day, a brand is a story. And the story is, I mean, unless you're, and I learned all of this as I was going, you know what I mean? So if I was starting a totally new business today, day one, I'd have the whole story written, but as I was building SYB and now Healthier Tech, everything was an evolution. And I didn't have the confidence in myself. I felt really like, because there's a different, like you were just, what's implicit in your question is there's a difference between a brand and an Amazon brand. And when you're really succeeding on Amazon, especially in the days before you could get A+ content up, what are people going to know about you? And so you get used to just designing product and selling it without people knowing who you are, knowing what your brand is, knowing the story. And then as you invest more and more resources into getting a better website, getting better lead capture content, getting better email marketing in place, appearing on more shows or webinars or whatever it might be, and then stepping forward and being a more visible face of the brand that you've built, that was the process that I went through, really starting in 2019 more than anything. And then it really jumped up in COVID because just a lot of timing things actually worked out quite well for us. And we were set up with the better website, and we were set up to start delivering webinars. And there was a huge amount of demand, for people just to engage and, for experiences to have at home. And it was an opportunity for me to be face to face with more and more and more of my customers and potential customers. And so for me, it was a gradual process. But at the start, I very much was a lot more shy or secretive or about the nature of the business, because as I'm presenting the website, I don't want people to think, oh, that's a Amazon brand. I want them to think that this is, a real company.
Yeah.
And that's a delicate line that you walk until you kind of have a firm vision of your path.
Absolutely. So what's the end point for the vision? I'm curious. Is there something where over time that you started to say, hey, this is where I think it's going, or I think like this is the goal I'm building towards? Do you have that in place, or is it something?
I think that I'm still a little secretive about. So
Okay.
yes, I do have a goal that I'm building towards. But every day brings new surprises. That makes
We'll
me
see.
think.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, makes me say, oh well, okay, maybe I need to tweak that plan a little bit. But that's part of the reason behind Healthier Tech. So we've talked about Shield Your Body,
Sure.
which is my product company, where we make the EMF shielding products like the phone pouches and the laptop pads and the anti-radiation headsets and things like that. And then you also alluded earlier to some of the mission behind Healthier Tech, which is, the lockdowns happened. We all started getting more and more into our tech. And then there was kind of this sensation like, wow, maybe that was a little too much tech. And, and maybe I want to be outside more. Maybe, and it goes beyond that to, maybe I should, countries should regulate Facebook more, which were the conversations that were first time really happening in 2020. And there was sort of this shift in the perception of how we relate to technology. And I realized, while EMF might be a complicated thing and somewhat controversial thing to talk about, having a healthier relationship with technology isn't, because basically everyone now that I talk to feels like they need a healthier relationship with their phone, just
Yep.
at a minimum. And if you can get people thinking in those ways, then they're going to have less exposure to EMF radiation, regardless of whether they're aware of it as a risk. And so I realized that this presents an opportunity to reach a broader audience with critical messaging that I think is very relevant and timely, but that also actually helps reduce their EMF exposure without ever having to talk about EMF or EMF
Right.
exposure. And so that is the expansion that is in process now. Now, again, in terms of long-term goals, you can have me back in a few years and I can catch you up. But no, so we have the podcast now. I think the episode this week is episode 60.
Wow.
And we have a few dozen more actually already recorded. We got a little behind on that one. And we're planning our first online summit, which will be taking place in September. I don't have a URL yet for you, but everything will be at the main website, which is healthiertech.co. And we're working on other content and programs through that brand while simultaneously working to expand our catalog and our marketing relationships on the Shield Your Body side.
That's amazing. So the for the event, is that an in-person event or is that
No,
digital? Or, yeah,
no,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, as I tell everyone to have a healthier relationship with technology, we'll have them on their
We're all
computers for
digital.
4 hours a day. But no, it's just way easier. I mean, this way you can get speakers, top names from all over the place. They can record their content in advance. You can get attendees from all over the place, and people can watch at their convenience. And so it's an online virtual summit, a healthier tech virtual summit, which will be September 18th to the 21st, and it'll be free.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that. That's always exciting to feel like you're putting on. I know how stressful that can be, and driving, any sort of numbers. Hope people show up and hope people
Yeah.
speakers are relevant and everything of that sort. That's always a big pressure to put on, but that's exciting that you guys are at a place where you can help pass it on and
Yeah,
share
thank you.
with
My
people.
team has been pushing me to do this for a couple of years, and I never felt it was quite right. But things just sort of aligned this year, and we have a really great lineup booked. And actually, the interview, we start recording all the interviews. I start recording all the interviews next week. So
That's amazing.
yeah, I'm excited. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, and as in kind of like the future develops, is there something that you as a brand or a company that's a lot of irons in the fire, and let's be honest, like as you develop this out, what's the one thing that feels like either the most challenging thing that you're still trying to overcome?
So that's a great question. And you're right. I do have a lot of irons in the fire. And the biggest change that I have made this year is to have fewer irons in the fire.
Okay.
I feel, and it, it, how do I express this? It, as a smaller company, where you're constantly struggling to find ways to grow, and you're always worried about cash flow. There's this like pressure, like, oh, here's an opportunity, let me do it. Here's an opportunity, let me try it. Here's an opportunity, let me try.
Shiny object
Um,
syndrome. Yep.
yeah, and this year I was like, wait, no, here's what we have to do. Here's the plan for the year. I'm not adding anything to it until Q4 and we start planning for next year. If it's not in the plan, we're not doing it. And so I'm doing fewer things, and that's spreading down through the team. And we're doing them better, and we're focused more on execution and on measuring execution. Operationally within the company. So the biggest change that I have made this year is actually doing less.
Okay, I like that. Do you feel like you need to go out and go to conferences or interact with people? Are you a person who's
No,
at
I'm
home
not
and
that.
rather heads
I,
down and work and
yeah,
everything?
yeah. No, I built SYB from the ground up, and this is pre-COVID, specifically to be run from anywhere. So there is no office. I mean, we have warehouses, and we have a primary warehouse in Vegas, but the team works from all over the world. I mean, the only country, yeah, I mean, the United States, we have a few key team members, but outside of that, we have Canada, Argentina, India, Portugal, Scotland, Greece, and of course China. We have so the point being, I intentionally built this company so that it could be run from anywhere. We could bring in people from anywhere. We could sell anywhere, and so the dependence on being in a specific place and time has never really been part of our recipe.
That's amazing. How do you guys is that conflict at all in person, or do you feel like, hey, we're not? I feel like with people, they either like getting together and like being in the same room and throwing ideas off each other, but you built this specifically, it sounds like, so
Yeah.
that
Well, I also came from
operationally,
software where
right?
this has been, I wouldn't say the norm. I mean, certainly not at the larger companies, but it has been popular. This has been a popular way of running software dev for 20 years.
Right.
So when I moved from software into this, I was like, this is what I want to do. And there's trade-offs. There's trade-offs to everything. But like when we're prototyping, we have to get multiple prototypes made and sent to multiple locations around the world, so all of us can be looking at the same thing at the same time and talking about it. But in terms of bouncing ideas off each other, I mean, we have meetings and we have Skype and we have email and we have Jira, and we use tools to facilitate a lot of that. And the people that come on board are ones that are attracted to this sort of lifestyle. So if they're looking for IRL interactions, they're not going to be looking for a job at Shield Your Body. They'll be looking for a job at, whatever employer they may have.
Well, as you were building this, you're building without you actually saying it. You're building a global brand because of the global perspectives of different people around the world. Is that been important for you to implement this as this product needs to be a universal no matter where I am in the world, right? Like, because technology is its own it's its own
we have
world.
We have one product that actually plugs into the wall, and so that one is depending on the power grid in your country. But every other product we sell, it adds the same value to anyone in the world, and at that point, it's all a marketing and distribution challenge. And
have you been surprised? Sorry. Have you been surprised by who adopts like this product the most? Like your audience archetype, right? Like humans across the board are using technology on a day-to-day basis, but more of one culture might use it more than another. Has there been an adoption that has been surprising to you, whether it be country or I'm not sure how deep you guys go, like male, female more tends to use, or has there been anything like that that's been surprising, whether it be culturally, geographically, anything of that sort?
Yeah, well, so I can give you
I'm curious.
one example.
Asking.
Yeah, I can give you one specific example. Italy has just been very poor performer for us compared to other Amazon EU marketplaces. And having just spent 2 weeks in Italy where everyone smokes and everyone vapes and everyone stays up, till 2 a.m. partying. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, maybe they don't care about cell phone radiation so much if they're doing all of that.
It wouldn't be surprising. Yeah, that'd be interesting. And for someone who was over there, like I felt like I was coughing so much. Everyone was on their phone and or vaping or anything like that, and it's shocking.
The vaping was amazingly. That took me completely by because the stereotype of European smoking. But you update it for 2023 and they're all vaping everywhere
in a different way. Yeah. And
yeah.
I still love you, Italy. You have a special place in my heart. And for people,
the food,
the food is amazing. R and I both realized we were both in Italy for 2 weeks at a time. So it's, we were both pleasantly happy. And I'm still happy, but this is the first day back for me. And I'm looking at screens. I'm like, the first thing I joked with my team was when I got back was, I don't have to worry about what I'm eating. That was the biggest challenge I had on a day-to-day basis was what am I going to eat today? Now it's catching up on emails and talking to great people like you, looking at 5 screens at a time. Right now, it's like I'm not even with it. It feels like, but or it's a different world. But and that's intriguing. Well, I guess like wrapping up with you, I'm curious too. As 2023 is unfolding, and now we're about halfway through the year, has there been anything that's more surprising, or what's been the most surprising, I should say?
I mean, this year all the economic uncertainty is I mean, it just by nature it's going to be surprising because every month you're told, oh, there's going to be a recession, and then 2 weeks later, oh, we avoided recession. Oh, wait, no, there's going to be a recession. Oh, interest rates, they can start flattening out now. Oh, no, wait, they're going back up again. And the bank failures are really serious leading indicators. But so far, the surprising thing is it's been relatively stable. I mean, there's been choppiness month to month, which isn't quite normal for us. But overall, the economic uncertainty it just keeps you on your toes this year more than in the past several years where things have seemed relatively fine. And this is around the world. This is I'd say every marketplace. The whole world is sort of on pins and needles about what might happen economically. But so far, knock on wood, it's holding up. But that's the big thing for me this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hopping on the Global Spin podcast today. And for people who might have a question, or again, you're a podcast host and you have all these different events going on, where can they listen to your podcast and maybe throw the
Thank
name
you.
out?
Yeah. So the podcast is the Healthier Tech Podcast. It's on all major podcasts. So Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, everything. So just search for the Healthier Tech Podcast, and all the links are at healthiertech.co. And the products company we were talking about, the EMF reduction products, that's at shieldyourbody.com. That's all one, shieldyourbody, all one word.com.
Absolutely. And you can buy on your website, or you can just search your brand on Amazon. And again, thanks for the amazing relationship you have with both Frisbee, but also just, I love hearing stories like this. I love seeing development of brands globally. And I would love to pick your brain more. You've been fantastic host, and we'll definitely have to subscribe to the podcast more after listening to an episode or two and just talking with you in general. So
excellent. Thank you
thanks
so
for hopping
much
on the Global Spin podcast. And we'll have to have you on again in a year or two, and after those surprising and very secretive things happening with the exits or the end road for Shield Your Body and everything in between. So thanks again, R, for coming on and
thank you
sharing
so
your
much
story.
for the invite. This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate it, Ryan.
I appreciate your time today too, sir. And thank you everyone else for hopping on the Global Spin podcast. Thanks to R Blank. Again, go down and check them out at shieldyourbody.com and all the other properties that they have. Again, thanks for dropping and hopping on and listening on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. Make sure you follow us on all those social platforms, or you can go ahead and find us. You can search myself, Ryan Cramer, on LinkedIn, and we'll have many episodes coming at the forefront. Actually, we have 2 more already this week. I don't take time off. Once I come back from vacation, I come back from vacation. So we're going to have lots of more episodes here with the Global Spin podcast. But again, follow us on all your favorite podcast destinations on Google, Amazon Music, and on Spotify or Stitcher. Will be available on all those platforms. So make sure you subscribe and get updated on our future episodes. Again, thanks, R Blank, CEO of Shield Your Body. We'll catch you guys next time on another episode of the Global Spin podcast. Take care.